All right, this is for those that are interested in the more advanced with our design rotation and actually using the trim command to actually really fill up this negative space, positive negative space. This was the exercise we just completed. I'm just going to remove this frame of reference, still keeping my guidelines. Now what I want to do is I'm going to actually scale this up and I'll start to make it as large as I want. This time I'm going to, instead of having a circle right in the center, I think I like to just try this and move it off to the side. Just give us a little bit more dynamics in this artwork, and I'll just move it over here, and that looks pretty good like that. So I've scaled this up. Now I'm just placing this, looking at my guidelines for my frame, and I'm going to get rid of all this excess information off to the side. This isn't really too difficult. I'm going to hit F3 right now just to zoom back for you. Maybe I'll just readjust all this. Okay, so using the trim command, we're going to have to go to the effects menu, arrange menu, and we're going to actually use what's called shaping, and we're going to actually cut all this out. So in order to cut this out, I'm going to just use the rectangle tool, and I'm going to just say, okay, there's the portion that I want to remove. If I fill it white, basically I want it to look like that. I'm just going to give it a yellow color right now for you to see it. So I'm going to go to what's called the arrange menu. I'm going to go shaping, and a dialog box will appear, and it's going to ask me, well, you want to trim? Lucky me. Weld, intersect, or anything else like that? Well, yes, I want to trim. I already had this object selected, and you have to pre-select that object. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the source. That's my source. I just want to take that off, and I want to trim that shape to that shape. You notice it's cut off like that. So now I'm going to go back and create another big rectangle, making sure I cover everything that I want to trim. Now that I had this all set up, I'm going to leave a source on just again to show you what will happen. This was by default, the source was selected. That's the object I want to cut out. It is selected. So trim that shape and select the object you want to click. You noticed it stayed on. Okay, so we left the source on. So I manually now have to delete that. That's why I take that off when I do that. So now I'm going to walk this around, and I'll do the same thing over here. Make sure I get all the objects selected. I'll take this off right now. It doesn't matter if it's filled or not. I'll just trim that to there. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to make sure it's fairly close to the guideline because our frame of reference will hold this, hide all this stuff. So now I'm going to go back to my rectangle tool, and this is where now I can put in snap to guidelines, and actually it'll snap right perfectly into everything. And right now I'll just select any large format here. So now we've created our design rotation, and this time we've literally trimmed it off, and this becomes actually far more interesting because now we have all this white space, this positive negative space. We were rotating it around. It's not placed in the center. I find things in the middle or too symmetrical. For me personally, I find it a little boring. I like a little bit of dynamics and off to the side or anything else like that. So same shape, same design, everything's the same thing. But this time we've trimmed off the edges, and it sort of like takes on a whole new meaning as well. So if those that are interested in doing this, you can do that, and with the trimming everything off, and just go back to remind you, go File, Print. My preview is actually on from using it before, but if it's not, just click on the little triangle, go to Pre-Press, click on the little tab, Fold Crop Marks, just select that, and you can see our little marks over here, and you can print that off. Now, I think through this whole course, I forgot one of the most important things. File, Save As, or Save your work. Okay, so with CorelDRAW, by default it calls it Graphic 1. You want to make sure you give it a name. You can call it rotation, and save it in a folder that you created. And you may want to create a folder called rotation. Just right click on the screen, folder, you can call it rotation, and now you can hit save. Now you can see that this is called rotation, and I saved it in a folder called rotation. So make sure you always save your work, and I think I discussed that in the beginning of Intro to CorelDRAW about saving work and how important it is. Okay, so there's our design rotation.